Today we're joined by Rich Wilson over at Total Fitness. Rich is the head of personal training at Total Fitness. So thanks so much for joining us today, mate. With regards to Total Fitness, could you first just let the guys know who might be watching this, who Total Fitness are and where they could find you?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're I say a large, medium-sized health club, normally based in the north. So got 15 sites across the north, all the way, a lot of Manchester sites, but all the way through to Teesside, to Lincoln, to Hull, into North Wales as well. So yeah, 15 sites, 100,000 members, currently just over 150 personal trainers, with many different routes into personal training as well. So we have kind of our own internal training academy that we've built up. We actually took our personal training business on three and a half years ago. So we actually acquired it from a partner that was delivering it for us on behalf of us at the time. So yeah, in the last 3 years, we've made some massive changes around building our own PT model right from scratch, which has been refreshing, so we can do things right and do things properly. So yeah, 15 sites all across the north. Yeah, 100,000 members, 150 PTs. And getting some nice growth actually through PT, kind of against the norm at the moment, which is I'm sure we'll get into a little bit more.
So I know we've said you're head of PT, so I'd love to know a little bit more about you. So your role within the company and your career so far to get to where you are now, that would be great.
Perfect. Yeah, so my career started, always been into health and fitness anyway. Played quite high level sport when I was younger. Went to university to do a sports degree. In halfway through my first year, kind of realised it was all public sector stuff. And I kind of wanted to work in the private sector, and just addicted to finding out how businesses running your own businesses, and the commercial side of everything, but through fitness. So started work as a personal trainer, got qualified, then all the way through university, and 2 years afterwards, ended up working for a company that ended up taking over. So we had 3 small studios in one space. We had 7 self-employed PTs going out on the road, all had their own vans, so we were mobile as well. Ran classes in between to fill up the studio spaces. Then started working for Total Fitness. So what sounds like probably a slightly boring CV after that, 10 years this year with Total Fitness, there's been 10 different job roles, which has been quite exciting. So yeah, started off as a fitness manager, and then went to general manager. So I was general manager for 7 of our sites over 7 years. Some investment sites, flagship sites, some that needed a bit of a turnaround, some in sales, some in product. But every club you went into is a completely different. They're all clearly Total Fitness clubs, but the team are different. The leadership needs to be different. Yeah, demographics, everything is a slightly different approach to every club, even though it's the same role. So that taught me a lot. Met lots of great PTs over the way, delivering some amazing things. Then moved into the head of PT role just after COVID. So we actually acquired our business just before COVID, and then needed to kind of make some moves into acquiring that business internally after COVID. So went through that graduation there, and spent the last two years doing this role now. So yeah, learned a lot about business, being a PT myself. Yeah, it's brought me to this position back where passion lies, really. I think a passion for not just PT, but doing things differently. Some frustrations in the industry that I do think we have a right to try and solve, if you like. We put ourselves in these positions, we've got to do right by our positions. So yeah, trying to influence change, not just in our facility, but for PT as a career, not just a job, in the whole as well. So that's what's brought me here.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree with you more with what you're saying there. And we've had a few conversations, and we're having more and more of these interviews with people in the position you're in for different companies. And what's quite nice to see is that the people who are in those positions now are all PTs at heart, similar to what you just said there. You want people to come into the industry and want a career. This isn't really, it is a lifestyle job to a degree, because you can, your passion and whatever, but to make a successful career out of PT, you've got to be all in. You've got to put your heart and soul into it, because that's what's going to get you the whatever you deem as success, whether that's money, whether that's helping, whatever it may be. That's what you're going to have to do. You've got to be all in.
Absolutely.
With regards to that, I mean, I talk about success there. For you personally and for Total Fitness, what does success, or what does success look like for at Total? What does success mean to you and to Total Fitness?
Oh, great question. And one that we kind of really delved down into ourselves, really. So when we took on the business, we looked at what do we actually stand for, and how do we do right by our people. Now, as Total Fitness, we believe that it starts and ends with people. We have to set our people up for success. Is so key. It's a phrase that you'll hear in every department, everywhere. Setting people up for success. But with the PT model, we could do something different, because it's a moving role, if you like, as opposed to where every other role is almost that's the position that you're doing, that's the job you've got. Whereas this is one that grows over time. And so we have two different models for different reasons. But our kind of purpose with PT is, let's stop looking at it as a revenue generating tool. It's a retention tool at the end of the day. So we know from the statistics that someone that takes part in PT naturally has twice as much usage, at least, than a member that doesn't take part in PT. Now, what that does to the average tenure, lifetime of member, it can double. Now, if we look at 150 PTs, all with 10, 20 clients, 3 years membership versus 6 years membership, all of a sudden you're in the billions. So actually, it's a retention tool. It's not just a revenue generating tool. So we thought that's got to be the key to building our model. We only succeed when the PTs succeed. So actually, if a PT isn't successful, we don't make any revenue. We wanted to make that almost very, very clear that that's the case, because unless they succeed, we don't either. So to build on that a little bit, our employed PT model runs at a loss leader. So we pay our PTs to do essentially gym floor work, but what that work is time to generate your own leads. And that can be done in multiple ways. It can be classes if you want to do classes. It can be inductions. It can simply just be gym floor walks, workshops, whatever that looks like for them in their comfort zone. We'll support that, and we'll do as much as we need to get them there. And then we pay them on top to deliver any PT sessions on top of that as well. So by the time we take a kind of small fee from the PT sessions being delivered, we actually make a loss all the way through the journey. And the reason why we're happy with that is the focus is then on us to ensure that our PTs are successful. And they only become successful when they drop to 0 hours and they become a fully fledged PT, or they graduate to being self-employed, where they do pay us rent, but they have their own successful business already in place. So there's no risk of paying rent there. They don't pay anything to us until they're satisfied. They've got a decent client base and will survive. I've seen some real success on that. So our average tenure is 4.5 years for our PTs. And we're keeping them longer and longer. So it works, and we're sticking to our principles. Even though we could make money with our employed model, it's not the right thing to do, because it goes against what we stand for, which is, if the PT fails, we fail with them. And I think that alignment has to be so key.
Right. It's so refreshing to hear. If the PT's doing well, the clients are doing well, they're not leaving. They won't leave unless the PT leaves. They're going to be embedded within your community, within your culture, and that's massive. It really, really is. So that's awesome. And it was great there. You actually answered my next question in terms of what is the PT role within your club, so they can start as employed, build their client base, and then transition to self-employment, which again is for me personally, that's the avenue I took. I worked at Nuffield Health for 18 months, built up a client base, and then for me with Nuffield, it was they wouldn't let me go down the self-employed route, so I transitioned over to another club where I could pay a rent and took my clients with me. Whereas if I had the opportunity to do the second phase of what you do, there'll be no reason for me to move. I could just move into that. So yeah, the fact that you offer both is awesome.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, because again, we can look at it and go, if it's simply looking at the commercial side of things, we go, well, we can own our own PT products and we can employ everyone. And we won't have any self-employed individuals. So we own our branding, we own the member journey right from start to finish. And that's something that Total Fitness is passionate about. We like to own our own products internally, and that's really key. PT is the only one that we've not gone down that route to, because if you think about what is a career of PT, they do want their own business at the end of it. A lot of them do. They want to have their own branding. They want to be identified as their own brand. And some of them work so hard. They don't want to be associated with, not with Total Fitness, but with everyone else being the same brand.
Yeah.
So giving them the opportunity to build their own business and have their own branding that you can't do in a lot of facilities without leaving and setting up your own your own branding outside of these four walls. I think it's key just to have those opportunities to do either or both.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think it's a fantastic way of doing it. So one of the other questions that I did have in terms of what does Total Fitness help or do to help their PTs become a success, you've answered that pretty clearly with regards to helping them in if they prefer to do lead generation through classes, lead generation through actual gym floor walks and stuff. You help with that. Do you help the guys with sales and marketing? Do you do any workshops or anything like that to help them?
Yeah, so it's probably good to go through our kind of education, onboarding, and mentoring kind of side of things, which is interesting. And to point out, kind of first, our recruitment process is quite tough. But I say it's quite tough. It's not tough, but it's not easy to pass. It's not tough if you're really dedicated and passionate about being a PT. It's really not tough. What our recruitment process does is it allows us to identify where we need to be able to support you going forward. And this is going back to the setting people up for success. In terms of helping that individual, it doesn't come after we've taken them on. It all starts in the recruitment phase. So our recruitment phase is a 5-stage model. So it's a one-to-one interview or recruitment day where we find out a little bit about them, their values, behaviors, kind of all the softer skills that we like to see in a PT. Then they do a gym floor engagement task, which is kind of walking and talking the gym floor. And that's just time where we just say, go upstairs, spend a bit of time on the gym floor. This is going to be your office. So you've got to feel comfortable in your own office, so as comfortable as possible. Talk to a few people and just gauge whether you think these members are the ones that you actually want to coach. Because if they're not, you're not going to enjoy your journey. So it might not be best for both. And our recruitment process and all the 5 stages is finding out whether it's best for both, not just for us and not just for them. We've got to be aligned. And if we're not aligned, that's absolutely okay to say no to people because we don't think they're quite aligned. Because we know their journey isn't going to be 4.5 years plus. It'll be 1, maybe 2 years. We want to continue to build on that tenure of PT that we have. So stage 3 is then a consultation. Stage 4 is an actual PT session delivery, so practical if you like. And then 5 is almost a business plan, but I mean not a Bible, but just a few pages or something to bring to the table to go. Now you know a little bit about Total Fitness. What do you need from us? And how do you see yourself thriving within these 4 walls? Because that's really, really important to identify some of their blind spots, where they might need coaching, whether it's softer skills, harder skills, whatever that looks like. And the reason why we do that is going back to setting people up for success. If we can identify that in the recruitment phase, we know that are we the right people to bridge that gap? Or can our education platform do it? Or can we bring a partner in to be able to do it with us? If we can't, then what we have to accept is they might be a brilliant PT, but we won't be able to get the best out of them. So we'd love to have you on, but realistically, we're not going to set you up for success because what you need isn't what we can deliver. And it's okay to accept that. And businesses really need to accept that, if you can't do something, that's fine. Either find someone that can do it or accept that you can't do it. And that's absolutely fine. So yeah, so setting people up for success starts at that part of the journey. Then going into kind of when we take them on. So kind of mentorships so we have designated fitness experience managers on site who are mentors and not managers. We make that very clear because being a manager would suggest that we manage their journey for them, and we don't. It's their journey, it's their story. They'll build their business how they wish, and we help mentor them getting what they want out of their business. So we keep them on the direction that they want to go in, not the one that we want them to go in. So what that might look like is, well, they have the regular one-to-ones anyway, every single week. They'll be set up on performance trackers where they can track all their leads, their follow-ups, their clients, payroll. All information like that is on kind of one master tracker, which can be used to help support them and identify opportunities in there. We then have our education platform that we use with Future Fit at the moment. So we've custom built a full platform, and in the initial 30, 60, 90 days, there's education around what you should be learning, what you should be feeling, and some of the challenges that you should be having within your first 60 to 90 days in Total Fitness and within PT. Mm-hmm. That also helps manage their expectations. I'm sure you've seen this a lot. You say, in month 3, I want 10 clients after month 1, and if I'm not, I'm failing. You're setting yourself up to fail already. So our expectations are 1 client in month 1, 2 clients in month 2, 3 clients in month 3. it's a 9-month journey and 10 clients on the back of it, minimum. It's so slow and supportive that you can only really overachieve if we've got the right people. So that's really key. Set them up to over succeed, not to under deliver. And then once they pass the first 90 days, they have access to all our education. So from business, coaching, commercial, right down to the nitty gritty of movement patterns for females, menopause, and all that kind of stuff. You can really get into the nitty gritty of some of this detail, and that's really there for some of the harder skills that they might want to develop themselves. Maybe into a particular niche or particular clientele that they're working with. That information is all there. The little things that we do is we link them in with our self-employed PTs. So those guys that have done it, then naturally become mentors in club anyway. And every year we do education, and we have a PT summit every year as well. So this is a point where we kind of like to try and go above and beyond, celebrate our PTs. So we bring in industry experts all into our Wilmslow conference facilities, invite every PT from every single club down, talk a bit about business. So for example, last one we had a UK's #1 sleep expert, James. So James came down and did some sleep expert talks. We had High Rocks down last time as well. InBody came down for one. We've had education experts come in, motivational speakers. So we put quite a bit of money into going, thank you for a start. But here's some kind of really high level education that that really makes a difference. So all those things combined, it's relatively supportive. Of course, there's a lot more we can do. But that's the support they get across the 9-month journey.
It's fantastic. The support they're getting is unbelievable. Quite unique, which is lovely to hear. With regards to PTs themselves, you're right. Your sort of recruitment or onboarding process is very, very similar to how we structure PT courses. So we start with as you said there, the consultation. Once they've done the consultation, doing some form of, we get them to design the programs first, but then it's delivery of the session. But they also then have to do the business planning themselves. And you're right, with feedback that we give to PTs, it is like actually rein it down a little bit. You've said we'll have 15 sessions a week. Realistically, that's not going to happen. Let's draw that back. Let's think about, okay, how are we going to hit the numbers that you want to hit in the first 12 months? Down. And yeah, that's exactly what you guys are doing from the recruitment process, and it makes total sense. Absolutely makes complete sense, because you're right. And I assume, like you were saying there are some PTs who potentially aren't right for total. I can imagine with the way that you guys are working, you might be able to offer them an opportunity to go, right, maybe total isn't right for you, but down the road there is another gym which could potentially be a good fit for you right now. I can imagine you guys probably do that as well.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I genuinely think the only way you can build a career and success within PT is you do your bit for the industry in general. It's like taking from Peter to give to Paul. Well, no, everyone can support everyone in doing better. We saw that in COVID massively. Coming out of COVID, all of a sudden, businesses in the same sector were working together. Yeah, because they needed each other to make the marketplace bigger, to recover in the marketplace. And it's at times like that you go, well, actually, it's really key that we actually do work together. So, we have people come to us, quite a few times because they're not happy with the service that they're getting. But vice versa, some of the people that are looking to maybe train a particular clientele, it might be specifically bodybuilding in some of our demographics and stuff, and we just don't have that in some of our demographics. Not to the level which they would be comfortable at. Having 20 regular clients, and it might just be we'd love to have you in here, but actually I think you're better suited to this kind of gym. And on the back of our recruitment process, if it's a no at the time as well, sometimes we give them a bit of an action plan. So in 6 months' time, if you were to apply to us again, this is what we'd love to see from you. And come back in 6 months' time, have another chat with us. It might be 3 months because it might be something so small. And if they're willing to work on that and come back to us, my God, these are some special people. But yeah, you're right. If they're not right for us, we want them to work in the industry, because the more successful PTs we have, the more successful health clubs and local gyms, independents that do some amazing work with PT, it just makes PT in general more appealing. More people want to work. They challenge each other, because the more PTs in the marketplace, actually it challenges people to be better. Whereas if there isn't many, and we do have a few clubs where we don't have enough PTs, and we probably don't have enough challenge in those areas. You know, we dominate the local marketplace, but it's not always a good thing. You know, we want the challenging us to get better at what we do. So yeah, absolutely. If it's not a fit for us, we'll always aim to try and fit them in somewhere.
So going on to another question, obviously you've been a PT yourself and been in loads of different roles within Total, but beforehand as well. So you've seen a lot of PTs within the industry and see a lot of people fall out of the industry, unfortunately. What characteristics do you think, or do you see in the successful PTs? What things do they generally have in common, do you think?
But I always go back to this one book that I love, which is Jim Collins' Good to Great. And it's all about building successful businesses. And the thing is about a PT is whatever business you look at it, you're running your own business. You know, you're your own CEO, if that makes sense. No one's going to do it for you. So I think the first one is you've got to be intrinsically motivated. So we're not managers. We're not just going to give you leads. You've got to work for them. And that's the right thing to do, because if you were to go self-employed or go elsewhere, we want you to survive. And if you can't survive, then we've not done right by you, because we've probably done it for you, which isn't right. So yeah, I think you've got to be intrinsically motivated. That's a big one. You know, we do tie that out in our kind of 5-stage recruitment process. You know, do we have to give them too much support where we'd be doing it for them? And then that's not healthy. When they graduate, they're not going to stay with us 4.5 years unless you're really motivated. Passion's a big one. So passion is, I have frustrations with passion sometimes, because I think we're kind of careful what I say here, but to get a level 3 qualification, and if you compare it to a doctorate degree, for example, you might be in medical school for 7 or 8 years, and they save people's lives. I would argue that PTs can sometimes be more important because we stop them getting there in the first place. But you can be trained up as close as six weeks. Now, that to me is in one case, it's fantastic, because actually you get a lot of people that come through there that are absolutely ready to go. Sometimes I think the expectations, because it is quite a short course and it can be done quite quickly, people expect to have a career straight on the back of it. Because I've got this qualification, then I must be a successful PT because I've done a PT qualification. It doesn't work like that, unfortunately. So I think there's an expectation there why a few people have obviously dropped off, because I think the expectation is they can just go into the role and make it successful. Similar frustrations with kind of online PT and things like that as well. Often we get people that think it's so easy to put a post of them training and all of a sudden they're going to get 10 clients because they like what they do. It's not as easy as that. So sometimes there's a lot of smoke and mirrors that make PT look really appealing. I think kind of what kind of I'm passionate about is getting rid of those smoke and mirrors and actually saying it for what it is. And I think it's important that if you do want to be a great PT, you understand what you're getting yourself in for at the time. It's hard, it's graft, especially when you're starting. It's unsociable hours until you're willing to put the graft in. That's when you can start to play around with, okay, well, where's my time? I can drop a few clients here. I can gain a few here because I'm doing well. But it takes a while to get to that point, and that's the reality of it. So I think sometimes we need to set the reality. That's why we see quite a lot of people drop off and don't make it through. But I do think as health club operators, we need to own that as well. You know, we need to make sure on our models and what we're promising is absolutely what delivering. You know, we're not going to pretend to people that are going to be amazing in 3 months' time and you know, start driving around in Ferraris and Lamborghinis to work every day. It's just not realistic. I think we need to take some ownership of that. So yeah, intrinsically motivated, being passionate about the industry. Yeah, and just being realistic. So from the course providers to the employers, to kind of CIMPSA, and everyone needs to be accepting of what the industry is, and making it a career, not a job. And I think that's so important. You wouldn't be a doctor just for a year and then go into a different profession. Why are we doing it with PT?
Yeah, I'm with you on every level with what you've just said there, and I agree with the intrinsic motivations, the understanding of what personal training actually is. You're right that most people who come onto potentially a PT course, or a percentage of them, will come onto it because I want to become a PT because I enjoy training, so therefore I think I'll make a good PT. And it's like, and then you actually start to realize from a course point of view, okay, it's not about your journey, it's actually about your client themselves. So we're talking about these things. Some people, even on the PT course, might not even finish it because they've gone, oh, I didn't realise almost how much work I've got to put in before I can even qualify. And that is, but we want that. We want you to go, it shouldn't be easy. Actually, you've got to put the work in now, because if you do it right and you understand how to apply these things in the course, it's going to stand you in much better stead when you go into a total fitness or somewhere else. And from an education provider point of view, there are some qualifications or some providers that will say, I'll qualify in 5 to 6 weeks and you'll get this, 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 and this. And those providers as well at the same time probably are just signing off your coursework when really it shouldn't be signed off yet. You've ticked boxes, but you haven't understood how to actually apply that knowledge. So that is something education providers need to improve upon. And that's something that we're trying to massively make sure that we do, because we want to make sure that if they come to you guys for a job interview, they're going to be the right fit because they've put their hard work in straight away. I mean, we have had people, we've had a girl, Zara, she completed her level 2 and 3 qualifications with us online in 3.5 weeks. She was insane, like, absolutely incredible. But she was at her university at Cambridge, had a 6-week break, wherever it may be, did it in 3.5 weeks. She had a job by week 4 and she's doing fantastic. There's, like you say, there are some people who it makes them watch. Her work was incredible and she was ready to go. But she's a special fact. That doesn't happen very, very often. But no, I'm completely with you. As an education provider, we can do a lot more to help them succeed. You're obviously doing your bit and trying to get even better to help the PT succeed in their potentially their first job, might be their third job at Total. They might not have worked at a couple of the other companies, but it doesn't mean they're a bad coach. They probably just haven't had the same support as what you guys are giving them. So no, I think that's fantastic, mate. I mean,
it's refreshing what you said there about some people questioning themselves when they actually go through the course. I think that's brilliant, because that's why it's there. You know, so many people go through university and go, oh my God, this isn't what I thought it was. I'm not prepared for this. Good. That's fine. That's the reality. Don't lie to yourself. And that's okay. But I think providers that are doing that, I think are in a better position than the ones that are kind of over-promising and under-delivering. I mean, we've, unfortunately, I'll give an example here. I won't say who, but as soon as they realised I was taking over the role and we're recruiting for more PTs, I had a few people contact us, different partners, different education partners, people like that, recruitment partners. But one conversation that I had, and I said, look, you've asked for my time. Let's hear it. Let's hear what you've got to offer. And they came on quite salesy and went, oh, we can provide you with this many PTs. We can get them qualified in this amount of time. We can actually get them passing the qualification earlier, and they actually continue to do education afterwards, but we teach them how to pass the qualification earlier than expected, but they'll actually do the training afterwards, but they'll actually get the certificate earlier.
They're not ready.
So we can actually get you PTs within your business within potentially 3 weeks. And I was just kind of just nodding away. It's like, what do you think to that? Get X amount of PTs. I end the conversation saying, if you've only asked me about what we actually needed, the conversation would never have started. I said, unfortunately, we will never work together. And it was as blunt as that. And it's scary, really, that there are people and potentially operators out there that would go, absolutely, sounds great, because it's a commercial business, it's a revenue generating business, it's not a retention business. So conversations like that will scare us. And I think it's poor for the industry. I think it's really poor for the industry. But unfortunately, there will be providers out there that love to hear that, because it's a big commercial line for them. Doesn't matter the turnover of PTs, it just matters how many they've got and how much they're paying. And I think that's sad and needs to change. Yeah, but that's the reality of it. I'm sure they're still in business because there are providers that will accept that. But that's a frustration of mine. That's why it's refreshing to hear what you're saying about putting them through the course and getting them to question how difficult it is and how difficult it is in the reality of building a PT business. It's not about your journey, it's about the customer's journey. And I think that's brilliant. That's refreshing. Yeah, no, and that is how, in terms of you say about the core values of Total, that's what we want with our guys. By the time you finished with us, we want you to have
a real understanding of what it means to be a good level PT and have a career in the industry, you need to understand that, because if they could come to you in terms of, say, for example, your recruitment process and go, right, we want you to do a business plan. Well, the last thing they do with us is a business plan. Go, I've actually already done one, and this is where I'm at. That you think, oh, fantastic! That's already a step ahead of someone who hasn't done the course with us, and they've done it with Tom, Dick, and Harry. Do you know what I mean? That makes a big difference straight away. Going into just actual total fitness, and so say I'm a PT that's just finished my qualifications, or I'm looking for a new avenue and a new role and a new position, and I'd like to work for Total Fitness. How do I find you? How would I find those jobs?
Well, I would first say go and have a look at one of our clubs if you haven't already, because that's kind of the first step. We like people that have kind of already made a step into wanting to be with us before we've even entertained the conversation. Anyone can apply for an advert, and I've probably provided 3 or 4 different applicants at the same time, different jobs at the same time. If someone's made an effort just to come into our club and say, actually, I organised a guest pass, I came here to train, and I love what I see, and I'd like to work there. Or I've heard great things, or I've read some great things. I mean, we've got so much marketing collateral out there for the great things that we're doing at the moment, which is so organic. You know, we don't pay for these things. These are organic successes that we've had by staying true to our values during COVID, and it's now really starting to pay off, whereas other operators probably haven't. So that sustainable growth and doing the right thing is kind of really where we're turbocharging our growth now. So as soon as you read some of those things, it'll spark you to go, you know what, Total Fitness, I'd like to hear more. But directly through to me, through LinkedIn, email address, you can go directly into the club. All our adverts are live on Indeed anyway. We have a careers page on the website. There's many different ways you can find us, and go back to intrinsically motivated. If you want to find us, you'll find us. So it's all out there. So there's no way not to find us. But come and have a conversation, and sometimes it might just be come and have a trial, see what you think, and then give us some feedback. We'll always get back to you within 40 hours, but the process of recruitment could take as long as you want it to. It's got to be right for both, and I think the more time you spend on recruitment, the time it takes to get the right person, it actually takes 5 times as long to manage underperformance and over expectation when you've actually employed them than what it does before you start. So save yourself some time is my best advice to operators, and have great conversations, do a great recruitment phase, get to know them, have a laugh, spend some time in the club, feel comfortable with everything, and then only then do you kind of really know what this person's made of, and whether the right fit for your business, and whether we're the right fit for them. You can find us anywhere if you try.
Yeah, no, mate, that's awesome. I've really enjoyed this chat. I really have. I think we've got so much of an understanding of who Total are. Like you say, your vision, the culture within the club. I think it's fantastic to have this chat. I'm going to sign off in terms of this conversation now, if that's all right with you, unless you have anything for me. But if it's all right, we'll stay on the call, and me and Adam will just ask you a few more questions with regards to recruitment and stuff, if that's okay. That'd be great.
Yeah, perfect. I'll probably say that there's one thing. So I know it all sounds, and going back to setting people up for the success and the reality of it, I do always kind of like to say we don't always get it right either. Everything comes down to people, and that's why it's so important, because we may have a fitness experience manager in one club that is maybe not being a PT before, and maybe really has to stretch themselves with education, and what you might get from that person is 80% of what you might get from someone that has been a PT and built their own business in a fitness manager position in a different club. So we've got the perfect process for recruitment, got the perfect process for onboarding, we've got all the tools you could ever need. How we set people up is from a person. So if we set them up for success, then my God, they've got all the tools in the world. If we don't set them up for success through our people, then you can have all these tools in the world and you might never optimize them. So there's always more to do. In reality, you're not always going to have the best people in the world in every position at all times. But it is how we set up our general managers, then how they set up their fitness managers, and then ultimately then how they set up their PTs. So I know we've spent a lot of time around recruiting PTs. For any operators out there, it's just as important that we recruit the right fitness managers that also have the same passion, understanding, care about the industry and about PT as a career than what the PTs have. Because if that's not aligned, you're probably not going to get the best out of that PT, because your values are maybe slightly different, your passion's slightly different. So yeah, that's the only thing I would say on that one, is we're very, very good at what we do. We have all the tools, but we challenge ourselves every day to make sure all the people are in the right positions to give the best to our PTs.
That's fantastic. And I again couldn't agree more with you, buddy. I really couldn't.